All right. Well, I am here and I don't know what just happened. I had it all scheduled and all of that, but here's what we have to experience is sometimes mistakes happen and yeah, we're just going with the flow. I don't see that anyone's here with me, so I will just be patient and maybe I can do something about that. What is this one here? Share. Yeah, so we're going to just do this. Oh, that's not going to help anybody. Well, I just really don't understand what I did wrong. Oh, anyway, I really don't know what to do because I had it all scheduled. It was all ready. Okay. I am live, but there's nobody here. um, Well, thank you for being here, Kathleen. At least there's two of us. We are, I thought I had this all set. So it's just one of those things. Oh, good. Galen's here. Um, Fabulous. So there's at least three people now. This is wonderful. I know there's a few more waiting over there in the other place. Kathy, there you are. So good. Wonderful. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. I said to myself, even if I just end up with 2 people, I'll be happy. So 3 is even better. Thank you so much for being here. It was my desire to Yeah, thank you. It was my desire to create a group where I can tell you the things that I've learned, that I've gained over these last few years or several years, I guess my whole life really, that makes it feel important to find like-minded people. So this was my purpose in creating this live podcast rather than sitting in my office space, which I'm still in, but feeling at least like we're together in this. And I do appreciate you being here so much. Um, so the what I'd like to start with is a little bit of heart coherence so that we're all together in that kind of physical realm, and also we're radiating out this coherent frequency so others can, maybe they'll feel it and they'll come find us. That would be wonderful. So let's go ahead and begin. And I wanted to start with a little bell that I was given by Mary Morrissey. I was in her group training, the Brave Thinking group. And so this is part of my Brave Thinking, is that I can do these live podcasts and people will be here with me. So in honor of the Brave Thinking Masters group and Mary Morrissey and the background that I've received from her, I wanted to do a little Tibetan bell ringing, and we'll just do 3 of these before we begin. So here we go. And then we'll drop into some heart coherence together. I would love to know that my volume is good. If anyone in the chat could please just give me a thumbs up, or if it needs to be louder, I can adjust that. Wonderful. Oh, hello, Mary Ellen. My sister's here too. Yes, thank you. So we'll start with some heart coherence. Heart coherence is a practice that has been scientifically shown to not only affect our own physiology, but the planet's frequency as well. So we are able to make change in the world, even though it sometimes may feel as though we're just kind of small and we don't have a lot of power, a lot of say. Actually, we can change the frequency of the earth, and this has been proven using some scientific instrumentation. So it's not just energy flying through the air, it's actually reverberating and creating resonance and creating what we call coherence in the field. And the field includes all of us and all living things, and it makes us, it's where we create from. So let's go ahead and practice a little bit of this heart coherence. We begin by simply bringing awareness to the heart, and this can be helpful if you put your hand there, if that feels comfortable for you, to just feel connected to the heart. And so just drop into that first. And then allowing your breath to slow down and deepen a little slower and a little deeper than usual. And they have actually figured this out to be 5.5 seconds in and 5.5 seconds out as an ideal rate, but around that is fine. Breathing through the nose. And then imagine that the breath is flowing in and out through the heart. 5 or 6 seconds in and 5 or 6 seconds out. And I like to imagine the 3 dimensions of the heart. So we have a front and a back and both sides and the top and the bottom. That's it. That step is called what we call quick coherence. And now we're going to go into heart-brain coherence by bringing to mind something that helps you to feel gratitude or appreciation. These are what we call regenerative emotions. And I like to use my cat. My cat's face is really an easy thing to picture and to feel gratitude, appreciation. Sometimes it's a challenge if you bring a person to mind because we're kind of tricky sometimes, and yeah, we can have multiple layers. So something simple like a scene in nature, perhaps the sun shining, the ocean, something like that. As we're breathing through the heart, in and out through the nose. And now what I'd like to do is have you imagine that this heart coherent vibrational experience is coming into some part of your body. Maybe there's a part that you're struggling with right now, just a place in your body that maybe needs a little extra support, and sending that coherent energy there. And then we can share this coherent energy out into the field. Imagine sending it to people that you know. And we'll go one level deeper and send it to people we maybe see, like our mail delivery person or the grocery store clerk. We see them regularly. We may not know them, but we see them. Sending them heart coherence right now. And then let's go one level deeper and send some of this heart coherence to people we've never met. And I'm going to invite us all to send a little extra to the people who believe that they have power over. And now, over the next couple or 3 breaths, just come back into your natural breathing, and you can relax your hand and let your eyes come gently open. And I like to say it with a soft gaze. When we keep our eyes soft, that tells our nervous system we're not really searching or wondering if there's any predators out there. So we can have that soft gaze, and that's a really nice place to stay. Great. Thank you for joining in on that. And I want to also just extend another appreciation for you all switching over to this new live. I'll figure this out for next week. I don't know why it didn't start automatically and how I even could start it with the scheduled one. So thank you very much for being flexible. And what I'd like to do today is to just give you all an idea of who I am and why you should listen to me. If I have anything important to say, where do I get this information and what's my background? So, a little bit of a bio today, and we'll also be doing at the end, I'll be introducing a motion that will be helpful for you moving forward in your life because I feel that it's a very important one for our nervous system to know this particular one, but also as we are developing ourselves and evolving as a species, it's time for us to start receiving and to receive with ease. And so I'll be teaching that at the end. And then we can have a Q&A if anyone has any questions for me. I'd love it. So what I wanted to start with is my background in movement is I started out as a gymnast and I hurt myself a lot and it was not a lot of fun to be in pain. And then I had a pretty dramatic accident during a competition and I think it just kind of everything together said, maybe this isn't right for you. So at age 11, so that's from ages 6 to 11. At age 11, I had the opportunity to take a dance class through the gymnastics studio. And I was like, ooh, this is kind of easier. It doesn't hurt so much. So I was a dancer, a trained dancer, and had the opportunity to train with people in New York City. And at age 16, I decided that I really wanted to move to New York City and be a professional dancer. So I figured out how to graduate early from high school, did that, and moved up to New York City when I just had turned 17. And it was a great year of discovery and learning. And I really, really appreciated the opportunity that I had to work with the professional dancers, the people who were on Broadway, who were taking the classes. And in fact, I got to teach some of the ballerinas jazz dance. So that was kind of cool. Ballerinas who really were looking for something a little different for themselves. But after about a year of that, I realized, yeah, there's a little bit more for me in life. And this is a pretty hard profession. It wasn't as easy as what my 17-year-old mind thought it would be. I also felt very accomplished because I was dancing with professionals and feeling like right on their level. And also seeing that there was quite a bit of, you have to fit the body type, you have to have the hair color and all of those things. And it really didn't depend as much as I thought on ability. So I felt proud and accomplished and decided that it was time for me to go to university. And so what I did was I ended up going to UC Berkeley, and my degree, what I was attempting to finish there was a degree in biology. And my goal and my purpose was to find a way to cure cancer because my mother had cancer. She didn't die from it at that point, but later on it did come back. But that was what I was intending to do. And I met somebody at the end of that year, and that became my primary relationship. So at 19 years old, I moved back to New York City, and I didn't expect all of this, but my life turned into a big musical adventure with him and Grammys and Grammy Award and just great big success. So just very pleased and proud that I had that opportunity in my life. And along the way, I had 3 babies. So I have 3 children, they're adult children, and very proud of them and what they're all doing as well. So in my biology degree, which I did end up finishing at UCLA and graduated with honors, so that felt really good. But I had the opportunity to study physiology and anatomy and chemistry and physics and cell biology, microbiology. I worked in a microbiology lab. So I've had a lot of this science background. And I actually ended up teaching biology while I was pregnant with my first two kids. And then I taught science to elementary kids later when my kids were a little bit older. So a lot of science, a lot of background in that. And then back to the movement piece. So I was a dancer and things were great and all of that, but I also found a lot of pain with that. So I went into studying yoga and doing lots of that, finding that I should say the perfectionist in me was pushing my body a little too hard. So there was, again, pain with the yoga. So learning about chiropractic and acupuncture and things like that were helpful to me. But there was a point at which I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia and told, well, you shouldn't walk uphill. Your hips are built funny, and here's some medications. And that was not really very helpful. It was not getting to the root of it. And I decided that I needed to do something more. So I found a practice which was helpful for movement, but also for eliminating pain, which is called Hana Somatics. And I'll put this in the chat so you can see the name of it. And Hana Somatics was devised by Thomas Hana, who learned from Moshe Feldenkrais, and I'll put his name in here too, and the Feldenkrais method. Actually, Hannah invited Feldenkrais to come to the United States and teach here, and then he sort of branched off and created his own format. And the idea for both Feldenkrais and Hana Somatics is that you're using the concepts of physics, you're using the cortex, which is the thinking part of the brain, to slow down and break apart motions that have become subconsciously controlled. They've become automatic. And when we slow down and when we focus and pay attention and notice what's happening in the body while we're doing these motions slowly, we're now creating new neural pathways that help us to find ease and comfort in the motions. And that is the key. We are finding that pain is not something that is, it's a helpful message because it's telling us maybe we're doing something not as easily and with comfort, but it's also important for us to feel ease and pain-free. So the both these body practices, Hana Somatics and Feldenkrais, bring that concept to mind that you are noticing what feels good to you, what's actually easy for you, where is there less pain, less effort. And these are super important parts of our nervous system regulation when we can find ease and comfort in our bodies. As I was doing this, it's also something else I want to say about those two practices is we become our own practitioners. We don't have to go to receive a modality from these folks. We can do this for ourselves. And that is maybe not a great business model because people don't keep coming back, but we can do classes together, we can do movements together, but it's your own perspective. It's your own, what we call interoception, where you're noticing from within what's happening in the body. You're using your own power of attention and awareness to change your subconsciously controlled movement patterns to find ease and comfort. And so that's kind of the basis of those. As I was practicing them for myself and learning from different practitioners how to teach it and how to do some of the hands-on pieces, because there are some hands-on pieces for Hana Somatics and Feldenkrais that I have learned as well. As I was doing these practices for myself, though, I found that I went into what's called a trauma response, and my body started shaking and trembling. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. What's going on here? So then I did a little research and I found, oh, well, this is normal. This is what animals do. They get a great scare, like a lion is chasing a gazelle and the gazelle drops and pretends it's dead, which is great because predators like that, they need movement, they need to follow movement. So when the animal lays down and pretends it's dead, the predator's like, oh, that's no fun, I got to get out of here, it doesn't attract them in. And so now the gazelle is safe because the lion went away. After the gazelle has a few moments of that body position, they'll go into a nice parasympathetic breath, which is a nice deep breath, and then they pop up, or maybe they'll shake on the ground, but they could also shake standing, but their body will quiver and shake and tremble. And when you see this in nature, it makes it really obvious that that's what we're supposed to do too. So if you are in the situation where there is someone who's not doing so well because they've had an experience that brought them to a great fright, and their nervous system is out of regulation, just stay with them. And if they start to tremble, just let that happen. This is really important for all of us to know. If the shaking starts happening, don't try to quell that. That's a natural response, and it helps us to move and shift out of the trauma reflex. So anyway, back to me when I was learning this. And so I found that it was related to trauma, and I kind of identified, yeah, this is probably where this was. And I could kind of see like things in my life that maybe had brought that up and why it was stuck in my body and why it was causing me this fibromyalgia and so forth. And as I learned these different techniques for myself and was sharing them with people and friends and family as well, I realized that this was an important part of my personal development. My fibromyalgia went away. I didn't need pain medications anymore. I was able to resolve this. Pardon me. So what I felt was important was to share, because as my background in science, if you learn something, you've proved it, you validated it, it's now something that is shareable. And also I was a teacher for a lot of years, so the teaching part of me just kind of was like, yeah, I need to teach this. So I started doing that back in 2013, about 10 years ago now. Started teaching these different techniques and helping people to know that we're in charge. Nobody has to take care of us better. No one knows how to take care of us better than we do. So that was an important part of this awareness for myself. Continuing on with my training, I have studied trauma extensively, the Peter Levine's books and works. Bessel van der Kolk is The Body Keeps the Score, which is very eye-opening. Got to have lunch with him once, which is kind of cool. And I also studied under the person who, so Peter Levine trained him. Dave Berger is his name, and Dave taught this modality called BASE, which is Bodywork and Somatic Education. And I learned that over the course of time, and he invited me to do trainings as well. So I was his assistant for a couple of those. Got to go to Japan, which was very cool, to do some of that trauma practice there. So this is a hands-on technique. BASE is a hands-on technique. And what's really cool, because it's always about using energy anyway, even if you're not in the room, you can do BASE. And this was brought up to us. And I have to say, I'm grateful for the COVID pandemic, because Dave got online with us and he said, okay, I just want you to realize that you can do this without touching a person. Just let's practice together. And we broke out into groups and we tried it. Sure enough, we can do that. So our bodies are capable of sensing other bodies. We have the ability to sense what's happening with another person's body. And this just becomes something that it was very easy for me to do. I don't know, maybe just because I trusted that. I think that was a big part of it, trust that we can do this. And that was really helpful for me to know that this can be done online. So I do my sessions online most of the time because I'm working with people in different parts of the country and the world. But also I do love doing it in person if I'm in the area, and I live in the Bay Area of San Francisco right now. So if you're ever interested in checking it out, please reach out for that. So that hands-on technique is also an energy technique. And what we're doing is we're using our awareness, our attention, and our intention to help the body itself to find its way out of the trauma response. So I'm not doing anything to a person. I'm simply being there and bringing my awareness and my focus to them. And the body knows what to do, and it just releases. And it's a very enlivening experience for me to watch someone go through these shifts. And it's very encouraging to me to know that the body knows what to do if we bring it to its own attention, really, and to say, like, hey, I'm here and I'm a good guy and I'm not going to hurt you. And then the body can just sort of relax into this release. So some of the things that I learned through BASE and I wanted to speak to are kind of pretty particular. Like, for example, the birth response. When we're born, our little feet, when we're being born, our little feet push up against the uterus to get us out of the birth canal. There's actually like a reflex that happens. So that's pretty cool. That's built into us. It's a program. Nothing we have to learn. It's just there. So when we're working with people in this way, sometimes they'll start going into the birthing reflex, and it's like, oh, okay, this is what we want. And we want to allow the body to know, yes, you have been born. Yes, you are welcome here on the planet. Yes, you exist. And that's a really important part of, human development, is to know, like, the very first thing is, am I here? Is it safe to be here? And do I exist? So rebirthing, I like to call it. And the other special thing that I had learned to work with are concussions. And I can even do this again online. And what's really cool about the way that the brain works is we have three membranes. One's the outer, the dura membrane. It's the thickest, heaviest one right under the skull. Then we have another membrane where we have some fluid first. And then we have another membrane that's kind of spider webby called arachnoid, which is the same word around spiders, same base there. And then some fluid there. And then underneath that, right around the brain itself, we have the pia, which is just like right around all the little bumps and ridges and things. And these three membranes can get kind of stuck together or kind of gluey if we've had a concussion, because a concussion just means a jostling of the brain and it kind of sloshes around. The brain itself is like not quite set Jello. So it's really very soft. And then these membranes can get kind of impacted and compacted and constricted. And then we have this gluiness that I can sense into. You can feel it. You can feel it. The membranes aren't really moving, and there's not enough space between them. So with the concussion work, again, just bringing awareness, bringing attention, bringing intention for those membranes to get free and to get unstuck. And I work directly with the person to have them join in on this too. So they're bringing their awareness in and allowing the brain to expand to its full size, to allow the membranes to be slippery and slidey. And that is how we work with concussions. So it's really effective. And I've worked with people, again, online doing that as well. So lots of nice changes for people, and pretty dramatic life changes as well. So emotional and psychological changes that can happen with the release of the concussions, even if they're old ones. All right. Along with all of that, I did get some training in trauma in different ways. So That was one with the bass and Peter Levine's work. I also got trained through Heart Math, and that's what we started with first, was the Heart Coherence. And that's one of the practices that we do in the trauma training to help people come out of the trauma response. I also was trained in healing shame from the Center for Healing Shame with Brett Lyon and Sheila Rubin there in Berkeley. And that is something that I didn't know it before I learned it, but every time there's trauma, there's shame. Every time there's trauma, there's shame. And what shame does, it's a binding emotion. It's an important emotion because it keeps us from doing things that would hurt other people, keeps us okay in society and part of the group. A little bit of shame. We call that healthy shame. But when you've had a traumatic experience and the shame comes, the shame can bind up other emotions. It can bind up anger, it can bind up sadness, it can bind up joy, which is a really common one for people, that they have a really hard time feeling joy. And that's important for us to feel joy. So important. It tells the nervous system, it tells the body, everything's okay. I can be well, I can be optimally well. So if shame is there to bind the joy, we can't really let ourselves feel that much joy, or we keep seeking external influences to try to find that joy. Joy is a natural state and it should be there. But if shame has bound it, it's not really available. So that's another part of what I help people to do, is to release the shame. And it's pretty fast and pretty fun. I know it sounds strange to talk about shame like that, but it's fun to release shame, to let it go so that we can feel, healthy and we can get through our things. The brain, it's very interesting and just a spectacular quality of the brain, that when we imagine something, the brain doesn't know the difference between imagined and real. So I can imagine that I'm having the conversation with the person that created that shame, and then the shame can be released and the body understands, oh, okay, now I'm different, and now the trauma response can be resolved. So there's really great things about releasing the shame that has been very helpful for people. So shame can come around any kind of traumatic event, and we can have it as a shock of like an intense trauma, the words of, shame on you. That's a trauma. That's also shame. So it's a shame trauma. But we can also have little drips throughout our life, which maybe don't feel like trauma. They don't feel like shame. They might just be a little comment like, oh, you look like you put on some weight, or, just something that's just small, or when was the last time you brushed your teeth, or, just little comments like that. But that's little shame events over our lifetime can end up binding up these emotions. And when they're bound, we don't really get to feel ourselves fully. One of the things that shame combined with is fear. And when shame and fear are bound together, they amplify each other and they just build and build and build. So we can't even resolve that easily by ourselves. I think it's helpful to have the inner conversation with the person that caused the shame. And again, the brain doesn't know the difference between real and imaginary. So we can do that. And the brain's like, oh yeah, we had that conversation. Oh yeah, we resolved that. And now we can be free of it. Okay, in addition to that, because I had learned these movements, these motions from Hannah Somatics and Feldenkrais, I am a synthesizer. I combine them. So I have the movement, I have the trauma work, I have the energy stuff, the intention, attention going in there. And then there's also a component of sounding. So this is what's kind of special about our nervous system. When we hear the sound of another person's voice that's calming and soothing, that puts us into a nice, easy state. We feel calmed. It also happens when we hear the sound of our own voice in calm, soothing tones. So what I've done is I've incorporated toning by the client at the same time that we're doing this. And I usually join in because I like to harmonize. That's something I just love, harmony, and being around music as much as I was earlier in my life, and being the backup singer and so forth. For my former husband, the harmonizing is fun, but it also creates resonant waves, and so we're dealing with quantum physics in this way. And the sound coming into the body will set up a vibration. So let's say we've got a tight diaphragm muscle. Okay, the diaphragm muscle is underneath the lungs, and it goes up and it goes down, and this creates the ability to have airflow in and airflow out. But if the diaphragm is constricted in some way, then that airflow maybe isn't, you're not able to take a nice full breath deep into the lungs. So we would bring our attention to the diaphragm. Maybe I would bring my hands there, or just my intention if we're working online. And then I would invite the person to bring in some sound, and we would just make a sound like, ah, and then I might harmonize above that or below that. And we're sending that into the place with our intention, both of us together, bringing that to the diaphragm, and then the diaphragm would start vibrating and shaking and releasing. And this can be very subtle. Sometimes people don't notice the vibration. They might notice maybe a color change, like in their mind's eye, they see the colors are changing. Maybe they'll see, instead of a solid, they'll see now something that looks fluffy or cloud-like, and the visuals change. They might sense a temperature, hot, cold kind of flashing, or movement. They might sense just wavy kind of movement. So something like that, where this is all happening for the release of the trauma response. So I've included the sound in there as well. So what I've done is I've taken all the practices and all the trainings and all of these bits and pieces and put them together, and I call it Somatic Release. And this is the practice that I do with people so that they are finding in the somatic components of their body, which are the sensory information of the body, they're finding release of these trauma, these constrictions, let's say. And I did want to say that trauma is defined by different people in different ways, but I think the best description or the best definition that I have found is that it is a perceived threat. So for an infant, somebody brand new to the planet, a loud sound can be a perceived threat. That could throw them into a trauma reflex. Also for an infant, a temperature change, a dramatic temperature change, like from one hot place to a cold place suddenly, that can put them into a trauma reflex. And then individuals, as we grow up, we've had different experiences in our lives that bring us to our adulthood, and it's the combination or the culmination of all those things together that make us who we are now, that bring us to what is perceived threat. For one person, a perceived threat might be someone's annoying voice, or it might be the backup sound on a truck. For another person, it would take a lot more for them to go into a trauma reflex. And it all just is very individualized. So there's no set, like, this causes this, it's just that there are your response to that. So I like to call this our response ability, our ability to respond. Can we pause? Can we notice, oh, yeah, that feels strong, or that feels threatening, but I'm okay in this moment. I can bring myself back to calm and know that I'm not letting the trauma reflex start up. And it is a reflex, not something that we have, power to say, I'm doing this now, or, my nervous system is going to go out of regulation. We call that dysregulation. It's not something that we choose. this happens for us. It's something that is here to keep us safe. So thank you, body, for knowing how to do the trauma response and the trauma reflex. And I'll take it from here. We can kind of address it. I have found too, this is like a little side note, but I have found that if I bump myself, if I know, oh shoot, that's going to hurt, that's going to be a bruise, if I bring my attention to it right away and say, oh, it's okay, you're going to be okay. You don't have to have a whole big bruise here. Let's just bring some attention and awareness and some love and kindness and gentleness and tenderness to the area. And oftentimes I'll end up not getting a bruise, or the cut will heal really quickly. So there's these different things that can happen with our bringing our awareness, and we are in charge. And that's the biggest thing that I want to help people to know. We don't have to rely on practitioners to heal us. We can get guidance from them, but the body knows what to do, and we're in charge of that with our thoughts, with our behaviors, with our emotions, and our actions. We have the ability to say, this is what I would like to see for the outcome of this particular event. I would like to see no bruising or very little bruising. We can say this, and the body responds if we're with our intention having this change. So one of the things I would love to also talk about is my study of physics and quantum physics, because this relates directly to the nature of life, the laws of nature. Anytime we have expansion, and what I mean by expansion is, let's say we were talking about the diaphragm and releasing the diaphragm and letting that have more openness, or releasing the brain membranes and letting have more space. In the world of quantum physics, whenever we have space, we can have creation, because the ambient energy, which is what makes us up, what makes everything up, it's what's in the empty space. It's not empty, it's continually vibrating. That space filled with all the energy of the universe allows us to have creation. We can create. So anytime you have expansion in the body, and that's what these motions do, that's what releasing the trauma reflex does, creates expansion. When we have expansion, now we can increase our charges, and we can be optimally healthy. We can create from there. Our intuition improves. It's a place where our cortex, our thinking brain, actually can function much better, because we are now in a state that our nervous system knows, oh, all is well. I'm in that creative state. We call that the parasympathetic. It's a relaxed state, but it's alert. So it's a calm alertness, or a calm confidence. It's a really important part of physics that makes sense in the body as well. So expansion equals an increase in charge. And when we get charged up, right, now we have more energy. We don't have as much brain fog. We feel less exhaustion. There's all of these wonderful things that come from expansion, including that increased charge. Now, somebody I've studied extensively too is Wilhelm Reich, and he was a student of Freud, but Freud didn't really want to help anybody get better. He just wanted to analyze them. And Wilhelm Reich came along and he said, well, I really want to help people get better. What's going on here? When someone's had an experience that was a perceived threat, we call it a trauma. What goes on in the body, and why is there a problem here? Well, he went off into the realm of the orgasm being the way to recharge a person's body. I'm not going down that realm. I'm not going down that pathway specifically, because I think there's other ways in addition to that, but there's other ways to allow the body to have this expansion, including movement, attention, sound, all of the things that I've learned about. So we have this buildup of tension. We have a charge. The tension comes from the expansion. We have a charge that increases. Then we discharge that charge. And when we discharge that charge, now we can go into relaxation. So it's a whole cycle that's really important to complete. If we get stuck somewhere, like we're too charged up, or we have no ability to discharge, we can't really go into the relaxed phase. So all of these steps are important. And this is what creates, I would say, the cycle of life, or the circle of life. It's the laws of nature. It follows physics. And it's something that Wilhelm Reich has found, did find in his work, that was important for us to be able to receive the energies that are all around us, this ambient energy. And like I said before, shame can bind things, and it can kind of prevent the good feelings from coming in, the good sensations from coming in, or maybe it doesn't feel safe enough, or it's unfamiliar to feel good, positive sensations. So this is where the work that we are going to be doing here together in the podcast, the live podcast, is to allow for us to find more joy, to find more ease, to find more comfort, so that we can now move forward in life, and believe in ourselves and feel confidence, and the calm confidence, and create from that place. So that's where we're aiming. One of the things I neglected to say is I've also been trained in something called EFT, which is energy freedom techniques. And this is what people call tapping. So you don't have to actually tap. You can just hold certain places. And what we're doing is we're telling the nervous system, I'm okay, everything's all right, this is safe, I'm safe. And at the same time, we can be releasing thoughts that are looping, that maybe say, you're not good enough, you're never going to make it, life is really hard, life's a struggle, all the limiting thoughts and beliefs that we might have, because we have been, over the course of generations, thousands of years, we have been kind of set up to know, or to believe, that there is a hierarchy, that there is a power over, and there's a power under, and we are the power under, and we don't really have the ability to rise to our greatest self if we are stuck in that place of, there's somebody better than me, there's somebody always better than me, and I'm never going to be able to, right? Like all the thoughts that come in. So EFT helps to move those out very easily, very quickly, and without any kind of story, which is really lovely. I've used EFT to help someone with releasing her fear of heights, and other people with fears of phobias. And that's actually how EFT was first used. Somebody had a fear of water, and the practitioner said, well, let's just try this. And he started doing these things with her, and she got free of her water phobia. So that's how it began, but it also removes all kinds of emotions. And the beautiful thing about EFT, or about this practice, is that we can release even things that are prenatal. So even things that we don't even remember. And because they're stuck in the body, because we find them, there are constrictions somewhere, or maybe a repeating thought, or you see a pattern in your adult life that relates to something that maybe got stuck there long ago, before you even remembered that you existed. So we can release prenatal thoughts and traumas as well with that. So I think that is, one of the things I wanted to say too is we find that with a lot of this work, things start healing. People start finding themselves to find ease more frequently, and to feel good, and to, it just kind of, it oozes out, it resonates out, it ripples out. So when we're doing this work, we're not just doing it for ourselves. We're not just doing it for the freedom and within our own bodies, but when we start feeling ease and comfort and expansion, that allows for ripples to go out into this field, right? The quantum field, which is connecting everything in all of us. So the healing processes that you're doing are not just for you, they're for all of us. And so I thank you for pursuing your development, let's call it, and your growth and your personal evolution, because it's helping all of us as well. So thank you for being here and doing that and joining in as we all progress and grow and become. And I love the three basic human rights that Thomas Hubel brings up. He's a collective trauma practitioner, group collective healing person. And he talks about humans having three basic rights, which are being, becoming, and belonging. And I really love that, because that's exactly what we are all about, right? Like, we have the right to be, and we have the right to become, which is what we're hopefully doing here with this podcast. And then the live aspect of it, that you're here with me together. I'm not just in my office space recording this by myself. You're here with me. And so we are belonging. So I feel you, and I appreciate you all so much for being here with me. We are going to be talking about so many different topics in this podcast, and I have learned so much over the last few years and the last several years that I really want to share with you. And some of these things are new and new for me. So, just I appreciate your open mind and your open heart, and to just receive what it is that I have to say. And maybe something's going to land in you, and you'll go, oh, that explains a whole lot. And now I can feel more freedom in my body. Because ultimately, what we really all are seeking is just ease in life, right? Like, that's what could be better than that. And life can be easy. I know it doesn't seem like it all the time, but there are certainly aspects of life that challenge us to see if that notion is correct. And I have found that this is something that when we pursue a goal and there's ease in it, it just becomes more obvious that that's what you should be doing in your life. So finding your passions and letting your goals be the thing that pull you to making something happen for yourself. Okay, so I will be teaching a motion, but before we do that, I'd love to know if there's any questions. So type that into the chat if you have anything that you'd like to ask me, or if you have a suggestion for a topic that you would like to hear more about. And I'm going to take a sip of water. Actually, a little more than a sip. If there's any questions about what you have heard today, or any of the practitioners that I've mentioned, if you want to have any resources, anything like that. All right. Well, it doesn't seem like anyone's got any questions. That's great. I'm seeing in my notes, I have one thing that I didn't really specify, but I think this is important right now. So I talked about Wilhelm Reich, and he was definitely not seen as a helpful person in the medical realm, because he was actually able to cure cancer. And the way he was able to cure cancer was by helping people to gain more energy and bring that energy into the body, increase their charges. So he had a device that he used that internally reflected and pushed the ambient energy into one space, and that would go into the body, and people's cancer was resolved. So he was like, oh yeah, it's a snap. We can resolve the cancer because we're increasing the charge. We've got this energy up. But he said oftentimes the cancer will come back. And what he understood that to be was it was a psychological thing, it was emotional. So, and I've heard other people say this too, that if we can feel joy, fully joyful, then we won't get cancer, because that is the signature that we are optimally well. So when I was talking about the shame, joy bind, yeah, we got to get those out of there and finished. So yeah, cancer is nothing to be afraid of. In fact, fear, is potentially going to cause the body to make those cancer cells. So um, finding increased energy, standing on the earth barefoot. I've talked about this in one of my previous episodes called grounding. Standing on the earth barefoot, you're going to get that ambient energy in, finding more expansion, allowing yourself to feel joy and ease and all of that. Okay, one of the questions came in. Thank you, Kathleen. Perhaps sharing titles of books you've read. Yes, like 100. 100. But I think what comes to mind is the first one. If you have pain and you want to learn these movements, Move Without Pain. I had it here a minute ago called Move Without Pain by Martha Peterson. So that one, I think that would share. Yes. And then increasing energy. So getting in the sunlight, being on the earth barefoot. Yeah, sunlight charges us up. Infrared charges us up. Drinking water that is structured water charges us up. I did an episode on structured water as well. Sound charges us up. Visualization of energy flowing into us, that actually is received. Like I said, the brain doesn't know the difference between real and imaginary. So if you just imagine, like, I'm receiving this energy, it's coming inside of me, right? We can receive it, we can allow it to come in. And then that brings me to the motion. But I'm going to list another book because there's just so many. But I think Feldenkrais, Awareness Through Movement. So this is a book by Moshe Feldenkrais. He's no longer living. Neither is Thomas Hanna, but they have written these books so that we understand the physics behind it. So you don't have to move a lot. You just have to move enough to start the automatic pattern, and then you undo it. So if you've got bad posture, your head is like this, and you want to undo that, go further into it, and then ease yourself out slowly. And that helps you come into natural alignment. So that kind of thing where we're using awareness with our movement, that's going to create more expansion, right? Softness in the muscles, expansion, that energy can flow. So it's all based on charges. We want to increase the charges. And that structured water is great because that's creating a negative charge. And so we have the negative, positive, and now we have the ability to create right there. Okay. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here, being here with me. And I just so appreciate you all so much. I feel my love is even bigger than normal, and I feel my heart is so full. So I'd love to teach you now, and then we'll say goodbye. And it won't be this long next time. I think that we'll probably spend about an hour together, but we had some technical difficulties at the beginning, and I'll get that all figured out. But let's go ahead and do this gesture. So this gesture I called receiving hands because it allows for the nervous system to know that you're safe, that you can receive joy, you can receive a compliment, you can receive a gift, and it's safe to do that. So we have three basic human needs. Our three basic human needs are safety, satisfaction, and connection. Our three basic human needs. And this gesture tells the nervous system, it's a neurological reflex, infants do it, and it tells the nervous system those things are true. It's safe for me to be safe. It's safe for me to feel satisfaction, and it's safe for me to feel connection. So this is all you do. You're just going to close your hands into soft fists, starting with your pinky first. So pinky, ring, middle, index, and then you can just rest your thumb next to your index finger. And you may notice, if you just pause there, that your pelvic floor drops down, which means you're feeling a little bit more connected to the surface you're sitting on. You may feel a softening through the abdomen and the lower spine. So let's try that again. It's safe to receive. It's safe to receive safety. I can feel satisfied. And I feel connected. My three basic human needs are met. Receiving that. So if someone compliments you, you can do this under the table. You don't have to show them out, right in front. But then again, share it, please. I'd like more people to know. Yeah, thank you. Oh, you've got really great hair. Thanks. Oh, you're really good at that thing that you do. Receiving that. I love you so much. Receiving that. Anytime something good comes to you, allow yourself to receive it. Neurologically speaking, your body's like, yeah, that feels really good. And that allows you to go into optimal well-being when we can receive. So even something that's hard to receive, something that's challenging for you, I'm just going to let that come in. It's safe to let that come in, because we can't disregard the hard stuff, but we can allow ourselves to feel it just enough, and then to know, like, in this moment, though, I'm okay, right? In this moment, I'm okay. I can allow that thing that happened to let myself know that it really did happen, but I'm okay. Yeah, there's things that we're learning from these things. So there's a couple different ways you can do that receiving hand. You can do that like I showed you here. Another way, which I think is lovely, is the deltoid muscle here. Indicates through our nervous system, it indicates that I'm connected. I'm connected. So if I have my hand here and I just tap down my fingers like this, not only am I saying it's safe and my three basic human needs are met, but I'm connected too. I am connected. I feel my warmth. I feel myself. There's a lot of loneliness. In fact, I've heard that statistically it's off the charts. Like, people are so lonely and they feel alone. But if you know you're connected, if you know that we're all connected, that this field that we are part of is making us and we are making it, right? Like, we're contributing to it. We're connected. We cannot not be connected. We are interdependent. And we're a social species. We have to be connected. It's our life force requires it. So let yourself know you're connected by doing it here. Another way you can do it is just on your lap, on your thighs. You can just drop your fingers down, pinky, ring, middle, index. And again, that's a nice way to do that. And you can do that under the table. Nobody needs to know. If you're at a meeting or something, you can just do that without people wondering, what the heck are you doing? All right. Again, I'm going to say thank you, and I'm going to ring my bell, and I'll see you next week, 11 a.m. Pacific time. And thank you so much. Tell your friends, please. Let's become together and belong together in a large group. I would love it, and I am so grateful. So thank you for being here. And we're going to do our 3 Tibetan bells. And we let the ring until completion. So that's why I wait between them. I'll see you next time.